is Courtney.
And Kristina.
And we are so glad to be back with another episode of She-phoria. Be sure to follow us on all of your favorite streaming platforms to include Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, and Pandora. Today you are in such a special treat because we're doing something really, really special for our listeners.
Yeah, so I'm so excited. I happen to be in conversation with our guest today. Her name is Joy. She is a principal at one of the schools in my network that I work with. And so we're in school leadership together. And she mentioned to me a little bit about how she took the leap of jumping into investing. And I know that is something that I have been thinking about and kind of perusing a little bit. And so just in our natural conversation, she brought it up and really shared a lot of insight for me. And for me, it was really helpful to see someone that I'm in close relationship with, in our working relationship, actually doing the thing that I am going to be taking the steps to do, and her having found some success. So we, of course, want to empower our women, our female viewers, and finances is one of the areas in which we have to be good stewards of our platform, and sharing that information with you. So without further ado, we will welcome Joy. Hey girl.
Hi. Hello.
You look
welcome,
so beautiful.
Joy.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well,
so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah.
I'm Joy. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. I came out to California about 10 years ago. I'm a mother of one. I've started several businesses, and I just love freedom. And so I'm doing everything to be financially free. And I think that's how I got here today.
Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on the show. I could not wait to let you share all that you shared with me with our viewers. So without further ado, we'll jump right into it. So talk to us a little bit about how you even got to the place of thinking about investing and wanting to take the leap.
Well, I would say for me, it started when I got out of college. I didn't realize I had student loans in my name. I didn't realize that I had a parent who had taken out credit cards in my name. And so when I went to get my master's degree, they said that I couldn't get a loan because I had bad credit. I was like, bad credit? I've never done anything. So that started me on the process of figuring out what was on my credit. And so first I had to fix my credit report. So pay off all the debts, figure out, settle the old accounts. But it really started pushing me to wanting to be financially free. So my first step, I would think, how can I feel free in America? And so I read a stat that said that African Americans only own 3% of the land. And so I said, I have to buy a house. So when I was about 27, 28, I was saving and trying to figure out whatever I could do to buy the house. I got the house, and then I realized that mortgage means death note. And so it was me and my partner at the time. I was like, oh my God, it's only me and you that can pay this house. And now I have a $400,000 mortgage. So in my effort to get out of debt, I got in more debt, still trying to find this feeling of freedom. Fast forward from that, me and my partner broke up and we sold our house. And so it was great to have an asset that we can sell. And so we both walked away with a check. The house appreciated a lot in the Bay Area, but I'm still trying to figure out how can I wake up and choose what I want to do with my time. I was like a kid that always couldn't wait to be 18 or older. And I was like, now that I'm 33, I'm like, this is what y'all do all day. I was just going to wake up and go to work and get friends from somebody. This is the other side of 18 and older. So I started looking for it was crazy to me once I found out that I needed to wait until I was 65. And then I was going to just be retired and die. And so I wanted to figure out a way to speed that up. So I was looking on the internet and I found things about FIRE, which is financially independent, retire early. And I started looking into them, and it's basically you take your income, you live way below your means, and you invest the rest. of your income, and then you let the compound interest work in your favor. So I really knew, like I used to have to pay off the credit cards, like they're taking 27% interest, or the student loans are 7% interest, or the house was 4% interest. And then once I paid off my debt, now I'm like, now I get the compound interest, and I see how it's just like a snowball effect that just rolls down the hill and just gets bigger and bigger.
So yeah, I think that I want to go into our next question. What were some of your fears about investing? I know there's like different schemes out there. You hear like horror stories about financial investors and different things like that who like use and abuse people's money, and then people wind up broke. So tell us a little bit about some of the fears that you had.
I had a lot of fears. I would always ask people, like, tell me about the stock market, or what can I be doing with my money? But I don't know if it's because I'm African American or my family has been bad with money, but there was nobody that I trusted that knew anything about money. Like, I watched my parents go through bankruptcy, lose their house, but they just had nobody that they could tell me. And even when I would meet other people, like, do you know about the stock market? What can I do with my money? Nobody knew. So one was just like not having a person, like I like people that I know. And so not having somebody vetted through like my family that I could talk to. But I think like seeing like the whole 2009 financial crisis, like you hear stories like, and then this person killed themselves. They lost all their money in the stock market. And it's like, this is making white people kill themselves. And like this is crazy.
I don't want to die. I'm too valuable.
And then the other thing is people would tell me like, you need to get a financial advisor. And like, I'd sat down and talked to one, but I was like, this man at the end of the day, and I like learned about like their fiduciary duty. And like, at the end of the day, you make money whether or not you make my money or you lose my money. And like, I don't want to be investing with somebody and not know what I'm invested in. And then 30 years down the line, like, I'm gonna have to kill you. Like if it all went bad and I never knew. So I'm a person that I really like to know the details for myself. Like if I make a mistake and I made the mistake, like I can live with that. But if I just give it to someone else and they make the mistake, like that would be really hard for me. So it was the knowing who to trust, knowing who to talk to, but the actual mechanics of investing, I didn't feel confident to do it until like I knew how to open up my own brokerage account, pick what my portfolio was going to be, pick a plan. So I needed like that to take the leap.
Thank you.
Well, you said some really, really important things, especially when it comes to like understanding your finances and how it works. And when you turn 18, you kind of, cross that threshold. And then you also mentioned how credit was a completely new thing to you. And same with interest. So for our listeners who have never, known anything about credit, can you explain a little bit about how important it is, and also interest, because they're going to see that, throughout their entire lifetime, essentially.
Yeah, credit is interesting. I think like all forms of debt are bad. Like I didn't like the feeling of being indebted to another person because I knew every dollar I made, I needed to pay them and they would make money off of my dollars. So there's a lot of ways to build credit. I would say for like forward thinking, a thing that I'm doing with my daughter is now that like my credit is impeccable, I just put her as an authorized user on my card. So when she's 18, she'll already have like my credit, over 800. But I think credit is like a really slippery, it's really slippery. And so if you're indulgent like me, if you like pretty things, like don't go get credit cards. But now I use them in a really intentional way. So like I've been able to lower some of my bills, like my Verizon, for example. I do a zero-based budget where I take all of my money out of my account because I used to have a problem with spending that money twice or three times and being like, oh, how did that happen? But I take all of my money out of my account and I separate it. And so what I'll do now is I put all of my groceries on my credit card, and then I pay the credit card off, but it reduces my Verizon bill. So I was able to take Verizon, my cell phone bill, from $100. Then I talked them down to 85. And now with the credit card, it's like 55 a month. So I'm always trying to figure out ways that I can reduce my living expenses so that I can save and invest more.
Very, very smart. And you also mentioned the stock market. And I like that you mentioned that because a lot of times when it comes to investing, the first thing people think is, oh, I'm going to jump into the stock market, but they have no clue on how to trade in the stock market. And you really shouldn't be dibbling dabbling unless you really know what you're doing. So let's talk more about your portfolio and the route that you took.
Yeah, so I had to read a lot of books. Some books that I would recommend is Invested by Danielle. And basically her dad, I think his name is Phil, but he big in stocks, but he taught her through the book like stocks 101, like from a dad to a daughter. So it was a whole foreign thing. I just thought people went somewhere and yelled at each other and got money and then they lost it and then they killed themselves. Like that's all I knew about the stock market. But I really had to like educate myself on the history of it. And it comes from like, I think in like the Dutch, they would sit around and kind of just talk about the value of a company and say, well, I think this company will be worth this much tomorrow. I think this company won't be worth that much tomorrow. And then in that conversation, that's where you get a stock price. But for me, I'm a long-term investor. And so I don't believe in like day trading or, I'm not hating on the crypto, but like I don't buy things that I don't understand. All of my stocks, I expect to hold them for at least 10 years. A lot of people don't understand, like if you buy and sell stocks, like you have to pay taxes on the capital gains. And so I really look for, I don't buy individual stocks. I actually buy index funds. And so like a single stock is like buying one company. And if the CEO does something crazy, the stock price could fall. I don't like putting all my eggs in one basket. ETF is like if you go into the grocery store and you buy the laundry aisle. So it's every company in that individual sector, which is cool. And then index fund is like buying the whole grocery store. So I just buy into the US market and every single company would have to fall on the same day. And then my portfolio is made up of the US market is made up of real estate trust. It's made up of emerging market stocks, treasury, and the way you set up your asset allocation is like when one part isn't doing well, the other parts will make up for it. So like stocks are down now. But to the novice investor, when you see your stocks tanking, people would sell and run for the hills, but it's actually the time to buy. And so like being in the stock market and educating yourself about it, you really should kind of know the history of it and what the dips and the peaks and the bull and the bear markets, because what you do is not intuitive to what you like naturally would want to do. So like you see your stocks falling, you're like, oh my God, I need to just pull all the money out. But you should actually buy in because everything's cheaper. So just having that kind of awareness. I took a economics class, a master's class that let me see like the US economic structure and kind of like, yeah, there's going to be market corrections. Like there's going to be dips, but they've only ever lasted this long. And so it makes me not afraid because I know there's, like there was just a correction with coronavirus. There's going to be another correction, but the way I have my assets allocated, when there's a dip or there's a calamity, that's when rich people make money.
Yeah. You were so helpful to me in our conversation that we had last week. What would you tell our viewers to avoid or like the don'ts of getting into investing?
I would say avoid handing off your investments to someone else. Like the whole financial advisor industry, like you can learn it yourself. Like you go on the internet, look for FIRE on YouTube, like books you can read. You can read about what's my favorite guy? Oh, I'm forgetting his name, but you can read, it's not something that you have to give to someone else because you never know what they're doing and they might chase the hottest stock or lose your money and kind of give you a little jibber jabber and you'll never know. So I say, don't hand it over to anyone else. I would say pay off your debts. And I would say start investing as soon as possible because the thing is time, not timing the market. So you're never going to be able to buy at the lowest or sell at the highest, but it's time in the market. So the longer that you're invested, the longer you have compound interest working for you.
Got it. So you talked a little bit about FIRE. Can you tell us a little bit more about what some of the specifics of that program were that really got you going with investing?
Yeah, so I actually read Dave Ramsey's book first, and he's like this country, really annoying guy, but he was so annoying, and the way he talks, he makes you, I don't know, I hear an echo. Do you all hear an echo?
Just a little, but it's okay.
Okay. So first I had to get debt free. Like I had to stop making my hole that I was in bigger. I had to get to zero. And it took me a long time to just get to zero. But then with FIRE, what you do is there's a study called the Trinity study where they talk about if you withdraw 4% of your portfolio, you can live off it for the rest of your months, for the rest of your life. So the essential like kind of analysis you would do is you would think, how much do I need to live every year? Like how much do I need for a year to cover all of my living expenses? And then you multiply that times 25. And then that's your FIRE number. And so once you have that number, so the biggest thing was me figuring out like, what's my number? What really needs to be in my budget? Like for me, like I realized like I need to have my nails done. Like I feel like an adult. I look like an adult. I feel beautiful when my nails are done. So that's in my budget. What are things that don't need to be in my budget? I used to spend like $2,000 a month on food, going into debt, working every day and saying like, I deserve to be happy. Like I'm just going to get takeout, or I'm going to just order this delivery service out of convenience, not realizing I was setting myself up to work until I was 85. And so I had to like rein that budget in, like, no, like, do you really care about this little chicken piccata that much? You don't, but you love getting your nails done. I had to like really talk to myself about what parts of my life like actually matter and what things I could do. Like I used to kind of judge parents when I felt like they had some money and their kids would be in like the school I worked in San Francisco. But I realized like I'm paying taxes. I don't want school to be an expense. So how can I get my daughter in the best free public school? So that's not another chunk taken out of my budget. So I had to figure out what's my FIRE number, and then you just work backwards from there. So how much can I invest every month? How can I save all my raises to put more money into investing? And so the way I have my plan worked out, I plan to live abroad. And if, you know, it should take me 8 years to be able to retire. So my goal is to retire by the time I'm 40 with my plan. And the cool thing about having a plan and being really intentional about like your number and your specifics is then you just find money everywhere. And like what FIRE people do is like ask for things for free. I'm like, can I have that? I would never ask anybody for anything. People are like, yeah, sure. I'm like, great. Like
Never know.
more money fast. Or like we came lower on our food budget this week, so $30. You know, every time I like find money anywhere, it goes to a specific place. Whereas like I would give it to people, you know, it would just go through my hands. Another thing I really had to learn is how to say no. I think as women, we're taught to be very accommodating to everyone. And what doing FIRE and being really intentional about my goals and my budget, it allowed me to stop letting other people spend my money. And a way people would do it all the time is say like, hey, do you want to contribute to this thing? Okay, yeah, sure. But now with my zero-based budget, I'm like, nope, you got to ask me a month ahead. So I'm sorry, I can't, you know, like I just can't. I didn't realize how many people like spent my money throughout the month on their ideas. But now that I'm so intentional about my money and I've cleared my bank accounts, like I used to have to be like zero, like I just don't have anything in here to give you. But it helped me like just be more in, you know, just work my plan and work my goals and not like just lose all my money on the street, just, you know, doing what other people wanted to do, sending flowers here, going to this thing there. That wasn't a part of my plan.
Yeah. I'm curious to know, Courtney had to jump off, but I'm curious to know, how do you, right? Because there's that piece of like fear of missing out on going places and doing things and experiences with people. What's your like mindset and rationale around that now?
Yeah, I don't believe in, I used to do it like in an extreme way, like I can't do anything, like no nails, no. And I realized like your budget, you should budget for the things and the experiences you care about. And when you have to make yourself decide like what's really important, you place more of a value on them. So I used to travel a lot on credit cards. And every time I would go somewhere, I would get home and be like, where are we going next? But now that I'm so intentional about my budget, it's okay, do you want to go to Tokyo or do you want to go to homecoming? That's a really hard choice, but I really want to go to Tokyo, so I'm saving for that. And yeah, I'm going to miss out on this other experience, but I had to make myself like have a big girl choice, like what you can't do it all. And I'm thinking on the back end, will you go next year? You could go in 5 years. You can go when your hair grows out. I just cut off my locks. So I'm like, yeah, I'll just wait till my hair grows and then I'll be there.
Yeah. I love that. I think hearing you talk about the sacrifice that you're making, you're making a sacrifice now for later. And I think, right, we talked a lot about the drain of just like being in schools, and like everybody has their drain in their work, but we align on like being in schools because that's what we serve. And so just that feeling, and Courtney, you can probably speak to this too, but that feeling of just like not wanting to work for anybody, and wanting to be kind of like the master of your own financial freedom, which is not something that I have encountered a lot in like conversation with like my friends, right? Like my homegirls. And so I think it's just really refreshing to like have had a conversation about that.
And I just visualize myself like, you're going to wake up and you're not going to check the emails. You're not. And I try to do parts of that now. And so like for me, another really big thing about fire is like, what's your why? Like, why do you want to do it? Like, and mine is to spend as much time with my daughter, to be able to be creative, to be able to give back and do things, not exchange time for money anymore. And so when having my why, I also want to make sure I'm not skipping over what I have of that in this moment. So like I can spend amazing time with my daughter right now. So I do, I'm really intentional about that. Or I can be creative right now. And so even though I'm like postponing, it's like a delayed gratification for this end of when I don't have to work anymore, I also have to be intentional about like, and it's still around. Elements of this are already around you. So don't like lose that in the big picture of what you're doing.
Mm. Joy,
like one example, my daughter's having a high tea. It was not in my budget. I have to buy the silly hat and a tea dress, but it's like, sometimes my budget isn't perfect, and so I had to do that this month, but my why is her. And so just being intentional about like these little moments that we have together. Sorry.
Joy, if you wouldn't mind going over just like step by step. So you mentioned budget, you mentioned how great of a program FIRE is. So just in case there are people who are listening who have, enormous credit card debt, who have 2 and 3 credit cards, whose credit score is maybe at 500, 600, or they don't even know their credit score, or they're living check to check. Like, what is the first thing they need to do? What can they do tonight to get started on the pathway to financial freedom?
Yeah, so I would say start reading. The Dave Ramsey has this like 10-step program. And what they do is the snowball effect. So you pay off your smallest credit card first. And then because it's like a psychological thing where you pay off one and then you take that money and then you pay off the next one and the next one. And then you get $1,000 emergency fund because something will happen. And you don't want to have to go back to credit cards to cover that something. and then you start investing. So I would say just line up your debts from the smallest to the least and just put anything toward that one. And then it's helpful when you listen to this, I like kind of talk crap about on his podcast, and you hear people saying like, we had $400,000 in debt and we're debt free now, or I had $20,000 in debt and I'm debt free now. One thing that really helped me that my dad told me was like, run your own race. So I used to get really sad, like, why didn't y'all give me any game? Like, or why aren't you all rich? Or why didn't you tell me anything? Like, you left me nothing. But it's like, you have to run your own race. And so listening to those other people's stories, it let me kind of take my stereotype off of like debt, where it's like, it's people of all colors, all backgrounds, everything, that are living check to check, that have enormous amounts of debt. And so hearing other people's, like, you know, their numbers help me not feel so shameful about mine. And like, I can do it too. Like, that person just did it. That person just did it. I can do it too. So I would say start with Dave Ramsey. He's a little hard on the ears, but it's kind of like that heart that you need to hear. Is the first step. So your first step is just getting to zero, like getting your net worth to zero.
I am wondering, so what then is the next step after that?
So then the next step is getting 1 year of salary, of your salary saved. So I'm at step 6, and then you get 25% of your FIRE number, 75% of your FIRE number, 100%, and then you're retired. Wow. So step is getting to zero is step 1 through 5, and then 6 is 1 year salary. And it makes you feel so good because you're like, you're sitting in those meetings, like I was telling you, Kristina, like, I got a year's salary, like, y'all try it. I can go and like make it for a couple months till I find another job. It's just a new level.
Try me, okay?
Yeah, it's a new level of, you know, just how you feel about your job, that you're not beholden to somebody, you know, like they can pull the rug up from under you. So it makes you actually more confident and able to, you know, I used to not be confrontational in a way at work because I didn't want to be seen as like angry or fired or anything like that. Now I'm like, I got a year, like, so y'all better.
Yeah, I can relate. So is that saving a year's salary in like your bank account that you have, like, let's say just at a bank, or is that like you're putting that money in investments that you can then like go and pull at some point?
Yeah. So a wild thing that I learned in this whole journey is like, I was taught to like save money, but every year, because inflation, like your money loses 3% of its value. It'll be even more than. And so I don't say I have an emergency fund in a bank account I can easily access, but everything else is in the stock market, making me more money in compound. So the vast majority of my savings are in my brokerage accounts, my Roth IRA, and my HSA, and then I just have a small emergency fund in cash should I need it.
Got it. That's helpful.
Talk more about that. You said something so important just now about saving, and I think when we learn about money, starting in econ in high school, we're taught save, 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 save. Like if you want to make it, you got to save your money. How do you feel about saving money versus investing, and what's the right way you should go about it? Like if you want to keep a little change in the back, but also learning how to make your money work for you.
Yeah, so one thing that was really important that I had to learn was pay yourself first. I would literally send my cousin money in jail. I would pay all the bills. And then I would save. Some people would tell me about birthday parties I need to contribute. And then I would save what was left. But now what I do is as soon as I get my check, I take my savings and transfer it right into my brokerage accounts. I know I can't touch that for a year, even if I wanted to. So it allows me to deal with what's left. And I just didn't know that, you know, when I would save in a savings account, one, you know, the little interest that they give you, like if you have 10,000 in an account, they might give you $1 a year. Like that's not motivating at all. But when you have an investment account, you're like, wow, like I went to work and I made $250 for my hours. And I look at my investment account, my investments made $175 or $300 or $200. It's like, wow, like that was my money actually worked for me. And so like you think of them like little workers, and any dollar you have like it needs to go out and bring you more dollars. And so just understanding that if you put 20,000, if you are saving for a house and you have 50,000 in the bank account this year, next year you really only have 40. So it's hustling backwards. And so you need to figure out a way to let that money grow or compound, because it's like what's worth 50,000 in 2021 is not going to be what it's worth in 2022.
Yeah. I think for me, what was really helpful in having this conversation, and I want for our viewers to like hold on to this piece, is that you were transparent with me about dollar amounts. So I was then able to like see, okay, Joy talked to me about like this amount, right? Which is going to be comparable for me.
What, like how much I was in debt?
Monthly, yeah, and invest. Okay. So when you said the number, like you just talked about the transparency of like when you're talking about finances, of course, with a trusted like friend or whatever.
Oh yeah, I see my numbers anywhere.
Yeah, and you just told me, and so that lowered the defenses that I already had up around like, ooh, I don't want to like talk about it. But for you to put a number helped me see, okay, yep, I could do that too.
Yeah, so for me, that was a major breakthrough I had because my best friend actually told me she was working at Condé Nast. She quit Condé Nast and started working for herself. And she's told me I made $150,000 last year, and I was like, my little business, I can't make $10 on my business. But just having another woman tell me her actual numbers, like we crowd so much in secrecy, we can't help each other, like lower the pay disparity, like, and so once she told me she made 100, I'm always a person, like if somebody with 2 hands, 2 eyes, and 2 feet, or another human can do it, I know I can do it. So I need people to tell me like specifics, because then it makes me like, I can get this. So once she told me she made 6 figures, that's when I worked to become the ED and got myself to a 6-figure salary. And for me, like my numbers, like my my conservative number is 1.5 million. The one I also would like is 2 million, just to be like super comfortable and giving money away to everybody. And what I invest every month is 3,000. And then in a teacher's retirement, it's like 1,500 more. So it ends up being like 4,500 a month that I'm investing. But I take 3,000 from my personal check and put it into the brokerage account. And then I have teacher retirement in the background.
Love that.
And I think everything you're saying is, well, not I think, I know everything you're saying is very doable and very attainable. How long did it take you to get where you are today, from the time that you said, hey, I want to get on the road to financial freedom, I want to take my finances seriously and really know what's going on, to today? How long did that take?
I would say my journey really started, my awareness of my finances started about 8 years ago when I tried to get my master's, and I realized my credit was horrible and I couldn't even get a loan. But it started happening really quickly after we sold our house. So one, like I always buy assets, not liabilities. Like if I want some shoes, I need an asset to pay for it. So having the house was an asset because it appreciated and then we could sell it. And so I would say I've been like on the journey of like saving and investing probably for like the last 3 years. But I didn't actually put my money into the stock market until Joe Biden, like the weekend Biden became president. I was like, okay, we're now going to put all this in there.
It was too much going on.
I was like, are we going to die? Or will there still be a market after this?
I love that. Okay, well, I think we're at a place where we can go ahead and close out. But before we do you have any like last keys that you want to give to our viewers, or maybe a last word that you would like them to walk away with?
Just don't have any shame about it. And it's all about what you learn now, so you can put your children in a better position. And the sooner you can admit it to yourself, the sooner you can, get to the place that you want to be. And once you're clear and so intentional about your number, money sources and money comes out of everywhere because you know exactly where you want to put it. And I would say one YouTube channel that really helped me is called Our Rich Journey. And they documented their whole process to fire. And now they're living in Portugal. And I watch their videos of them gardening with their kids. And it's just so inspiring. And so if you want like a step-by-step technical like kind of guide, you should really check them out.
Cool.
And one more time, what are those books that you said that are key that one should read?
Yeah, Invested by Danielle Town is a good one to just like understand the stock market and long-term investing. Dave Ramsey's book, I can't remember what it's called, but he has this 10 point like kind of step by step to get you to debt free, are two that I would recommend.
And how could one get connected with FIRE? So tonight, if they wanted to jump online,
just type in FIRE, F.I.RE, like as an acronym, into YouTube, and all kind of stuff will come up. But really, if they go to the Our Rich Journey, they make like beautiful videos, and they have all kind of things about investing and there was actually another YouTuber too. Her name is Rose Shaffa, SHAFA. And she was the one where I learned how to actually go on Fidelity, open my brokerage account, pick my investments, make my investing plan, buy in, FDPIX, or I buy this percentage of this. And so she was another like key for me to be able to like, okay, like, all right, click this. Okay, click this. Now sell, trade, because we need to take control of our finances and know exactly what we're clicking on and not be taken, because like Black women, we're one of the fastest growing population of entrepreneurs and CEOs. And we just can't get our money taken from us or just let it fall through our hands. Like, in our lifetime, we will make millions and millions of dollars, but it's not how much you make, it's how much you invest and let compound.
God, I love that point. That's probably my favorite point that you made. I'm a person that like, don't talk to me about this. I need you to show me, and I need you to show me step by step. And so I think that,
and share too, like with you, Kristina, like here's all my passwords, here's everything, like and then we'll talk. So like share and be open about our salaries, because it helps other women know how much we're worth, and not accepting like just somebody put in front of us.
Yes, for sure. Okay, girl.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
How can our viewers get a hold of you though?
I don't have anything. I don't have any social media. You all will see me on a beach. But yeah, I was thinking like I have a little Etsy shop. Actually, it's called My Joy Books, where I make books. But yeah, I could give like maybe in the show
plug your stuff, girl. What's it called one more time? You like make little books.
My Joy Books, and maybe you all could put like my contact in the show notes, because you can email me. I love sharing. Like I always see it as just like paying it forward to somebody helping me. And so if anybody wants to talk, like I'm down to talk specifics and numbers and give you everything I got to get here.
She's just so down to earth. It wasn't a big deal. We took some time on, I think, like a Friday afternoon, and she did just pour, like she just shared, and it was like just out of a place of wanting like to see me experience the same kind of like success that she's had. So I just really, I don't know, it touched my heart to have her on the show.
And I think it's dope that she's not like hoarding information. She's sharing it. You know what I mean? Like it's free to share information.
It's free to share information, and like, what are we afraid of? And I think one of the key shame, but also one of the things that I love that she said was, right, like we have to talk about, like, even her and I, like in the same organization, like what are you making, girl? As the principal, this is what I'm making as the assistant principal, right? Like those conversations are important, because she talked about like the disparity in pay, right? And so like even something simple as that, us being able to get together as leaders of color in our organization and talk about our salaries, and then like potentially, you know, petition for change on like the amount that we're making. So you just never know what information can do for somebody. And I think just us, like Black people in general, Black women, Black men, like the information that I think sometimes is like hoarded in white families doesn't, like, we're not in those circles. Like I've never been in those circles, and so like,
especially when it comes to like generational wealth, and you know that you'll see more with the Asian community, and with the white community we'll see more generational wealth. But then when it comes to the African American community, it's like it starts and it stops, or we, you know, what do they say, that $5 goes around town and back within a week, and it's like we got to do better. But we have to have these kind of conversations and know how to do better.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So that's where it starts. So, yeah.
Well, perfect. Well, let's keep the conversation going. If you guys have questions about finances and money, you know, send us a DM. If we can't answer the question, we'll find somebody like Joy who can answer the question for you. But yeah, let's all do this journey together on the path to financial freedom. Don't forget to like, comment, and share our content. And we'll catch you guys next week for a brand new episode.